Hi, my name's Kevin, and if you're watching this video, then you're probably going through a pretty bad breakup and looking for advice on how to get over heartbreak. Well, if that's the case, then I know that you must be in a really low place in your life. You just lost someone that was really important to you, and now your heart's broken. And I want you to know that everything you're feeling right now is normal. Everyone goes through this at some point, and they have to learn how to deal with that feeling of heartbreak afterwards. And that's why there's been millions of songs and poems written about being heartbroken, because there's this wide range of emotions that we all feel afterwards, whether it's jealousy or anger or confusion, sadness, grief. There's a whole range of stuff that happens to us, and it can feel really overwhelming. So what I want to do in this video is I want to share some tips on how to actually get over that feeling of heartbreak and deal with that overwhelming range of emotions that we all feel. So, first of all, what exactly is heartbreak? And I think you have to really answer this question in order to know how to deal with it. And a lot of people describe it as that overall feeling of heaviness, emptiness, and sadness inside of you that just seems to weigh you down and take over your life and control the things you do and how you act. There's lots of different things that can cause this feeling of heartbreak. Some people might have had a romantic relationship that went sour, or they just ended unexpectedly, while others might have really strong feelings for someone who just doesn't feel the same way about them. Or maybe a person feels sad or angry when a close friendship ends or just abandons the friendship. And although the causes may be, different, that feeling of loss and heartbreak is the same. Whether it's the loss of something real or the loss of something you only hope for. A lot of my coaching clients, I wouldn't say a lot, but, from time to time, I do get people that were in a long distance relationship or, met someone online. And on one hand, it's like, how are you heartbroken? You hardly, ever spend time with this person. But it's a really tricky thing, because it's what our mind creates, and our heart gets invested regardless of how often you see the person. But the heartbreak is even more intense when it was someone that you were intimately involved with, someone you spent a lot of your time with, maybe even every day, or you were married to, or spent time planning a future together. That makes the loss even more devastating. And a lot of people ask, how do I deal with heartbreak? Like, what can I actually do? And unfortunately, most people are just going to tell you that, you'll get over it in time, or that you'll meet someone new. But, when it's happening to you and you hear this advice, it's just like, really? You're just going to feed me that bullshit? Sometimes it can feel like no one in the world can even understand what you're going through. But I think it's important for you to remember that there's billions of people who've experienced this exact same feeling. And that's right, I said billions, not millions, not hundreds of millions. There's been billions. There's over 6.7 billion people in the world right now. And trust me, a significant portion of them have loved and lost and gotten over it and loved again. So no matter how down you may be, or, how crappy you might be feeling right now, realize that this is normal. People have gotten past it, and there are things you can do to get over it and move on. And in this video, I'm going to share 5 stages of grief that we all go through after a breakup, and what you can actually do to get over this feeling of heartbreak. But before I share these 5 stages with you, I just want to remind you that Getting over heartbreak is not a linear process. It's normal to go through a roller coaster of emotions and move back and forth between the five stages I share. So just acknowledge that it is a process and it's not going to go like perfectly straight and linear. You're going to have ups and downs, and that's fine. Don't beat yourself up for it. Some days you might feel strong, confident, and really good. Like, I can get past this. I can get through it. And then all of a sudden you're just, you're hit with a sense of sadness and loneliness where you just can't stop thinking about your ex and all the things that you miss about them. Just remember that the name of the game is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So as long as you're moving forward, you're winning. Okay? So here we go, the 5 stages. Stage 1 is denial. In the beginning, it's really hard to accept that the breakup is actually happening and that your ex is really leaving. You feel shocked and you're like, this can't be happening. And you might feel numb, or you might just think that you're fine. And, this stage of denial is usually only temporary because it's your subconscious mind doing its best to protect you from pain. It's trying to not let the loss sink in so that you don't have to deal with it, and so you don't feel sad. And unfortunately, this feeling of denial can sometimes not be that temporary. It depends on how sneaky your mind is and whether you're just being delusional. It can last anywhere from a few minutes to a few months. Everyone deals with it in a different way. But it's really important to confront the reality as soon as possible so you can actually accept it and get over it and move on. So don't delude yourself into thinking that your ex is going to come back or that you guys have a chance of rekindling what was once there. You don't. It's over. Accept it. Harboring a hope is only going to hurt you, and it's going to keep you from moving on. Let go and deal with what's in front of you. If they said they don't want to be with you, they don't. It's that simple. Deal with it, as hard as it may be. Okay? Stage 2, anger. And this is that feeling that sets in after the shock fades and you slowly start to confront what actually happened. And when you do, it's really normal to feel angry at your ex, and sometimes even towards yourself or the world around you. It's common to have thoughts like, how could they do this to me? Or this isn't fair. And sometimes it could feel like they're doing this purposely just to hurt you. And this stage can be pretty intense, especially if you're not used to feeling angry very often. But it's a very necessary stage that you need to go through in the process of getting over a broken heart. In fact, anger is actually a very powerful emotion that can help you get over the breakup. Because once you experience anger, you can be sure that you're actually on the right path to healing a broken heart. And the best way to move swiftly through this process is to stop trying to control your anger. Accept that you're angry and fully experience it. Not only experience it, express it. If you try to suppress it, it's going to fester inside of you and it's going to keep you stuck. You'll feel angry at your ex and then you'll just keep lashing out at them for what they did to you. But you're not even lashing out to them. It's like this internal inner conflict that you're going to be going through. And then you're going to drag other people into the picture. You're going to explain what happened. You're going to try to get them to agree with you and tell you how wrong they are, how they shouldn't have done what they've done, and how they're a bad person or whatever it is. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong with doing this at first. It's good to talk to people about it. It's good to get perspective on the situation. And it's quite normal. But you have to get past the stage in order to move on with your life. If you don't, you're constantly going to have this feeling of anger and resentment inside of you. And it's just going to latch on to everything you discover this thing about your ex, or you'll cling to a past memory just to support your story of how it was wrong for them to leave you or do this to you. So instead, let go of the anger so that it doesn't keep building momentum, like a snowball rolling down the hill. And there's a few different methods that you can use to express your anger so that it doesn't just get stored up inside. And, I'll list a few methods here. Feel free to do whichever one you're most comfortable with, okay? One of the ways is to write all your angry thoughts in a journal. Another way is to do rigorous exercise. This, burns off stress, lets out the steam. Another one is to scream inside a pillow. I know it sounds kind of goofy or dorky, but that really lets it all out. It's really healing. Another one, sorry about that. Another one is hitting a pillow. It's another way of expressing that aggression. And of course, if you find another way to deal with it, feel free to give it a try. This isn't meant to be the only way to get over it. I'm just sharing a few tips that I know have worked for myself and some of my clients. So yeah, let those feelings out. I know it might be hard at first, and you might feel really out of control, but you really need to release that. Otherwise, that anger is going to get buried, and it's gonna fester inside of you, and you'll be stuck in grief. So the third stage is bargaining. And at this stage, it's really tempting to try to get your ex to change their mind or take you back or tons of crazy stuff. So if you find yourself, trying to come up with schemes to try to get them back, just remember that it's part of the process, and, try not to do anything stupid. Don't pour your heart out and write them a letter and send them flowers, or just try to control yourself. I know it's going to be hard, but it's part of the process, and it'll feel like you're going crazy at times, but just keep that in mind. This is normal, but don't act on it. Please. You're just gonna, oh man, I'll get into that later. That's a different example, but basically at this stage, it can be tempting to take all the blame for how things turned out. And the reason that a lot of people do this is they hope that, the problem is within them. And if they take the blame for it, and if they accept that it's all their fault, then they feel like they can somehow change something to control their future and prove to their ex that things will be different. They'll say, here, this is my fault. This is what I did wrong, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. Please take me back. I love you. I love you so much. I don't ever want to lose you, and all that crap. It's not that it's crap. You might feel like that, but everyone says that after a breakup. It's part of the bargaining process. It's part of what you do. These stages are proven. I'm not making these up. This is, real psychological stuff by it's a grief counselor. I think her name was Keebler-Ross or something. Wish I had her name pulled up in front of me right now, but it's basically the 5 stages of grief, and this is what we go through, whether it's a death of a loved one or a breakup. So keep this in mind, because at this stage you're going to feel an urge to contact your ex or do something to get their attention, and you really need to resist this urge as much as possible, because not only are you going to look desperate and needy, but it's also going to push them away even further. And they're also going to remember how weak and desperate you were for them to give you another chance. And not only is it going to ruin your chances, but it's going to affect how they remember you. And I doubt you want to be remembered as a weak or desperate person. You want to be remembered as someone who handled the situation maturely by accepting the loss and moving on, rather than begging and pleading to, get them back at the expense of your dignity and your self-respect. So, to make it easier for you to get through the bargaining stage, ask your friends for support. When you feel an urge to contact your ex, stop for a moment and see whether you can look for a friend to comfort you instead. See, you have to accept that your ex is no longer going to be there to comfort you when you need to get it, and you need to get that comfort elsewhere. And you got to get used to the fact that they're out of your life. And another thing you can do to help with this is to grab your journal and write down whatever you're feeling in the safety of your own notebook, where there's no risk of rejection or disappointment and no risk of embarrassing yourself and looking desperate and being judged. Another thing that's really helpful is actually sharing what you wrote in your journal with a close friend. Now, I know the thought of that may seem a little terrifying, but the process of exposing your deepest fears and still feeling loved and accepted for who you are is incredibly healing. Regardless of what you do, the point here is to do something to help you deal with the breakup. And hopefully some of these tips are helpful. If the journal thing is intense for you, do the other stuff. But anyways, the fourth stage is depression. And during the depression stage, it's really normal to feel drained and low on energy. You may feel the need to isolate yourself and spend time alone. And this is perfectly normal and it should be allowed. There's no need to force yourself to do anything you don't want to do. I'm sure your true friends will understand why you don't feel like going out or partying. You just had your freaking heart broken. So tune into what you're feeling inside and give yourself the time to really heal your broken heart. And a couple things to watch out for when you hit the depression stage is that your mind may start having things like, I'm so worthless, I can't live without them, what's the point of living without them, I have nothing to look forward to, and really kind of depressing things like this. And it's normal to feel that way because losing someone you love is a really painful process. In fact, it's the ultimate rejection. It's one thing to approach someone that you're interested in and not have them reciprocate. It stings. You put yourself out there and they didn't care to get to know you any further. Or they may have been rude. They may have shut you down. They may have not responded. They may have turned away, whatever. But investing so much of yourself into a relationship and putting yourself out there in a way that you don't normally do, and then getting rejected on top of that, now that frickin' hurts more than just someone that you approach at a bar or a club or on the street or at the grocery store or whatever it is that isn't interested in you. And that's because they're not rejecting you for some sort of superficial reason like your looks or because you said something stupid or anything like that. They're rejecting you after knowing you quite intimately for a long time. And it's really hard not to take that personally. After that happens, it's normal to get down on yourself and feel like there's something wrong with you. But you have to remember that this is a trick that your mind is playing on you and that you're not any less lovable just because one person fell out of love with you. And in order to get through the stage of depression like as quickly as possible, you have to express your feelings. Cry if you have to, feel sorry for yourself. Let all those feelings out. Remember, they're just feelings, and they're only temporary. And that is if you let them flow. If you don't let them out, they're going to stay buried inside of you. And they're going to be permanent, not temporary. So if you confront them and you express them, you're going to allow them to flow through you until you release them. And that's why your journal is kind of like your best friend when you're going through heartbreak, because it's always going to be there for you. It's always going to give you the ability to express your thoughts and feelings, and it's never going to judge you. You're safe to say whatever you want to say in there, and once you write enough in that journal, one day you'll find that you're okay, and you no longer need to write anything in there. And that's when you hit the fifth and final stage, of healing a broken heart. And the fifth stage is acceptance. And this is the stage where you realize that you're going to get through it and everything is going to be okay. And once you reach the acceptance stage, you'll find yourself moving through the healing process a lot quicker. In fact, you might even feel a sense of relief and freedom. It might feel like this heavy burden just lifted off your shoulders and you're finally free again. In fact, after surviving a breakup, you might also have a new understanding of how strong your spirit is. After getting through all those intense thoughts and feelings, you developed a sense of inner strength and resilience that is going to help you get through the hard times, no matter what they are, in any area of your life. You've deepened your relationship with yourself. You've learned how to tune into your feelings and respond accordingly. You've developed a greater sense of compassion and patience with yourself that you can now carry on with you in the future. And most importantly, you discover that your heart has a very great capacity to love. And by going through such an intense experience, you've actually expanded your capacity to love. You're now much more mature and self-aware, and as a result of this experience, you can now love at a greater depth than you ever have before. I know you may not realize this right now, but I promise that you will once you open your heart up again and you fall in love. After every relationship that I've had, I was able to love even more deeply in my next relationship. And that's because every heartbreak shapes you and molds you. Even if you get your heart broken and, it's really bad, there's always a positive to it that you can apply to your life. And I think it's just such a great experience because once you rebuild it, it's always rebuilt stronger because it's being rebuilt on top of wisdom, and past experiences. Realize that you have a greater capacity to love now. And as my final gift to you, I just want to leave you with some affirmations that you can repeat to yourself if you ever get stuck in the process of getting over a broken heart. Somewhere in the stages of anger, or grief, or depression, maybe repeating some of these out loud will help you kind of get past that block. So one of them is to say, it is safe for me to accept change in my life. Another one is, it is safe for me to release my anger and depression. And the last one is, it is safe for me to move forward with my life. And like I said before, don't make yourself wrong anywhere along the process. It's all part of the process. And encourage yourself to go through the entire journey and notice how well you're doing. You're getting through it. You're looking for answers. You're embracing a better way day by day. And take note of this and honor it because not a lot of people do it. It takes courage. And you're actually doing something to better your life and move forward. And if you're still confused or frustrated about something that happened between you and your ex, you can get more advice on how to get over heartbreak by, leaving a comment if you're on my YouTube page, or you can shoot me a personal message to set up a session, or you can click the link underneath this video to my website where you can download a free chapter from my book called The Ultimate Guide on How to Get Over a Breakup. Basically, there's tons of resources available to you. I think that this is one of the most complete kind of videos or guides on how to move on because it covers the whole range of emotions. But if you ever get stuck and those affirmations don't help or anything, just shoot me a message, leave me a comment, and I'll be happy to talk to you one-on-one and set up a session for us together, okay? So once again, I hope this video has been helpful, and if there's any way that I can serve you in the future, just let me know, okay? Take it easy.